All right. Hey, Ashe, how y'all doing today? We are back and we are on day 4 of the 90-day self-help self-check challenge. I am your hostess with the mostest, Giselle the She-Boss, the spiritual boss with the spiritual sauce, right? Coming to break you off with a little quality info for your mental. So let's get right on into it, all right? This is day 4 of the vlog. Hope everybody is doing well. Hope everybody's staying focused. Hope everybody is really aiming to become the best version of themselves as the days go by and things just start to happen. I'm getting pretty excited myself. Still getting off to a little rocky start on a couple of challenges, but the thing is to keep remembering that this is a challenge, so it is challenging. It's not expected to be easy for you, and that was really the whole purpose of you deciding on what you really need to challenge yourself to do. So just know it won't be easy, but it will be achievable. So that's what we're going for, and that's what we want to keep in mind. Just let the spirit take over, and things will just start to fall into place and happen as they should. All right. So today's focal point is one of my favorite topics, and it is the brain versus the mind. All right, the brain versus the mind. So this week, for those of you all don't know, if this is your first time tuning in, this week we are focusing on the mindset. All right, mindset. Next week we'll be focusing on mindset shift. All right, and then the following week we'll be focusing on your challenges. All right, your goals and your challenges and what you hope to accomplish by the end of these next 90 days. We're going to be kind of working interchangeably in and out of some of the different aspects of the challenge so that we can make sure that we have time to actually focus on the challenges and focus on our personal, professional, and spiritual development. So know that as the days goes on, some days may be a little bit easier, some may be a little bit more in debt, and some may be very tedious as far as the curriculum that is involved, because it is set up for a 90-day satisfactory result. Okay, so with that being said, let's jump right into it so that I do not take up too much of your time. All right, gonna go ahead and get started. For those of you all who have the curriculum, you can definitely follow along. We're just gonna kind of read the inserts and then break down the concepts and the points that we're touching on with this day 4. All right, so day 4 is a little bit in depth in detail, and it's going to keep getting even better as time goes on. All right, so let's dive right in. This is by far one of my favorite topics to get into because it's just guarded information. Hold up. Okay, but it's like one of those codes to the life hacks that the top elite keep heavy under lock and key. All right. Ironically, I've come across this information several times in my pursuit to success while participating in mentorship, consultation, studies, travels, etc. It took me about a good year of hearing it repeatedly to fully understand the concept, and that I should actually use the information to improve my life that I realized I no longer desired to live. Okay. Now, don't get it twisted. I'm not talking about the point of suicide, but there have been times in the past that I may have entertained the idea once or twice. That was more to try to hurt someone else by letting them lose me than to actually hurt or heal myself. Once I realized that they probably wouldn't mourn for long, those thoughts were gone for good, and I got back to the few little senses that I had left. Nonetheless, the recent situation I was referring to that I no longer wanted to live was really about submitting to slavery of a system that I found myself in. When I was a mere young thug ripping and running the streets, thugging, I was also in and out of juvie, jail, and eventually prison. I've been to inpatient and outpatient therapy centers because my mom thought I had behavior issues. LOL, is actually funny now, knowing what I know, thinking back about it, because I was simply rebelling against the system because my spirit was not set up to operate within it. My mom, on the other hand, is a perfect example of an NPC, which stands for non-player character. All right, which we will revisit later on in the challenge. So put a bookmark on this concept in your memory bank for now. But to sum it up in a nutshell, you have two types of people in this world, and that is the compliance and the non-compliance. Now, so for those of you street savvy and hip nieces and aunties, let me break it down for you. The compliance are always giving non-player characters, all right? And the non-compliance are always giving main character vibes. Those are always the ones going against the grain. Now, there are usually a few good reasons for this, and I'm going to reveal them here. So let me explain what I mean by non-player characters. Non-player characters are a concept that I want to say her name. Let me see what it is. Dorothy. Dang, I want to say Dorothy Green. Is that her name? She's a spiritualist, and she's an esoteric teacher as well. But she goes into the concept of non-player characters, and I kind of like this. They have other terms too. Some people refer to them as stand-ins. Some people refer to them as what do you call them? Stand-in, fill-ins. I forget the name of the people that do like the back, they're like background characters. Background characters is what we call them, background characters. I have decided to coin the phrase compliance and non-compliance, all right? Compliance are people that always go along with the system. They're always following the directions. They're always by the book. They're really with the standard operating procedures of whatever system they are operating within, whether they realize they're operating the system or not. So these are the ones that don't ask questions about things. They kind of believe whatever you tell them. They accept whatever you say is truth. They don't do too much research and too much diving deep, too much questioning things. They don't really have a lot of original thoughts. Their thoughts are more recycled because they're thoughts that have been put into their head by influencers or teachers or the TV or school education, things like that. So we call them kind of like textbook learners. They're those people that you might see in school that really get the book part of it. But when it comes to the theory part or the actual application part, excuse me, not the theory part is the book part. When it comes to the application part, that's where things start getting a little shaky, and you kind of really see what kind of character you're dealing with. All right. So as far as like the 90-day self-help self-check challenge, that's why we're working on theory. We're working on concepts. And we're working on the application of it, because it's important that you do the work, and it's important that you understand why you're doing the work. You never want to do the work just to be doing the work and have no idea why you're doing the work. All right. Because in that sense, then the work has started to work you, and you're not actually the one doing the work. All right. And this happens a lot, especially when we're in business. You know, us entrepreneurs, we quit our job to start a business thinking that it's going to give us financial freedom and a lifestyle of luxury and, on demand, whatever we want to do at whatever given time, which is definitely a possibility. But a lot of times we don't understand what goes into the actual startup of the business, the layout, the foundation that will eventually achieve those results. But we have to go through a lot of obstacles and things to overcome to get there. So what may seem impossible is not necessarily impossible. Even what may seem like it may take 5 years could definitely take about 2. But you have to understand that, be willing to dedicate yourself, make sacrifices, commit to your plan and stick to your plan, and have some type of plan of action in place to actually get there, and make sure you're on track with it. All right. A lot of times when you have no plan of action and you're just kind of aimlessly, throwing the ball and hoping that it lands in the basket, and you don't really have a strategic way of shooting, then you may find yourself missing a lot of shots. All right. And so that goes with anything in life. You want to be very intentional about not only what you think, how you feel, how you react, how you understand, and like just having a understanding, like a deep dive into things, looking into things, and not just accepting things at surface value. All right. That's how people a lot of times get scammed. That's how you have people that are easy to manipulate. That's how you have people that it's easy to pull the wool over their eyes and tell them lies that they believe, because those are like non-player characters. They're pretty much on automation. They don't really have any conscious thoughts, and they don't really think about things. They just kind of go through life aimlessly wandering with no sense of direction. And that's really, for me, that's not ideal. Okay. So the non-compliance are the ones that's always giving main character vibes. Main character vibes, you are the author of your book. You're writing your own story. You're going to live life on your own terms, unapologetically. You ask plenty of questions because you already know people are out here with the finesse game. And you have a tendency not to believe everything just because it sounds good, just because it looks good, just because it feels good. Okay. So you know that life is contains a lot of twists and turns, a lot of tricky situations, and you may have become aware that a lot of things that you were told coming up as a child, as a youth, as a teen, as an adolescent, you may have realized in your later life that some of those things are not necessarily true. I'll give you an example of one that I can tell you. When I was younger, the saying was blood is thicker than water. And as I got older and realized, damn, something can't be true, because I see a lot of families that are not tight, closely connected. Matter of fact, I see more families that are a lot of times estranged and isolated than bonded together like they used to be back in the day. I think tighter, stronger, firm knit families were way more of a normal thing back in the day. But because of how society is and how we have allowed society to depict what is the norm for us, we have found ourselves in a situation where family is not even your best allies nowadays. It might be a complete stranger that comes to your rescue quicker than a family member, or it might be a complete stranger that supports you and has your back and encourages you and motivates you and stick beside you better than somebody you grew up with knowing your whole life. All right. And that is not by default. All right. That's by design. And I'm gonna tell you something. One of the reasons is because when we're coming to this existence on this side of the realm, which is the physical side, we were already existing on the spiritual side. We have neglected the spiritual side because we weren't even told that we had one. So we've been fooled and tricked and bamboozled a lot of ways and more than one. But what happens is the reason why you meet people that you may be drawn to that you've never supposedly or allegedly met before, that you have no memory of meeting, is because you might be what they call kindred spirits. So your soul or your spirits might be connected previously. You might even be spiritual relatives. All right. So that's what I like to refer to as kindred spirits. And so you may come across people in your human experience, you know what I'm saying, on this plane that you relate to and you have no understanding why. So I'm just here to shed a little light about that and understanding how the mind is connected to the spiritual aspect of us, while the brain is connected to the physical aspect of us, will help you to understand why this happens the way it does. All right. So the reason that it's easy for us to be programmed, and the reason why you have the compliance and the non-compliance is this. All right. So there's a system that have been set up by people for other people that have no idea that they're even a part of the system. And what's worse is that they have no idea that they live in this system, they breathe in this system, they work in this system, they sleep in this system, they love in this system, they create in this system, they eat in this system, and etc. And even worse than that is they unknowingly keep the system operating by providing it with the energy the system needs to continue to operate. All right. So imagine that. Sounds like a captive forced into indentured servitude, aka slavery. All right. So now what happens to a free-spirited solar system that gets tied up in this foolishness? It rebels. All right. That's exactly what happens every time. It's like trying to keep a wild animal caged up in an isolated building. Eventually, they will figure out how to break free and go back to its natural habitat that it is familiar with. All right. So now that I've explained about the bigger picture of the system, let me explain to you about the human system and the spiritual system. Now, the human side of our existence is connected to the brain. The brain is a functioning system inside of our physical system. It helps us to get through life as it sends signals and transmissions throughout the body that we never have to think about. All right. That is also connected to your frequency or your AKA vibe. All right. So I get into that later on in the challenge as well. So you have more understanding about how to control that and how to adjust that when need be. All right. They call those involuntary actions. They call those involuntary actions. The brain is a very important part of the collective systems within our bodies that help us function day to day. Have you ever had one of those days where everything just went by so fast and you don't remember most of the events of the day happening, but you're sure they happened? Or what about when you're driving? Have you ever been driving and arrived at your destination, but not really even thinking about the route you took to get where you're going? Seemed like the car kind of drove itself, but you know you weren't in a Tesla or another electric automobile, so that couldn't be the case. Well, the reason these incidents are able to be pulled off successfully without much effort is because your brain retains memories, all right? It's where all your memories get stored first before they get downloaded or uploaded to your phone or computer nowadays. Those are just backup files. But the original memories are the original memories are built. My bad, don't get tongue tied. Let me see where I was at. Okay. Those are just backup files, but the original memory is in your built-in hard drive. So I know what you're probably thinking by now. Oh my gosh, I'm a computer. And guess what? You're right. This is so true. That's why it's so easy for us to be programmed as humans. All right. Think about it. What has programs? Computers. All right. Systems. The brain connects to, that's why we have systems in our body that are always made up of smaller systems. The brain connects us to the physical system. And a lot of times without realizing it, we have spent most of our lives doing things on automation because we have no idea that we have been programmed to stay in line like sheep being herded through life by a sheep herder. Hence the creation of the word. All right, sorry about that. Had a little technical difficulty. But yes, let me see where I was at. Oh, okay, yeah. So hence the word in the creation of the word sheeple. All right, it's actually a real certified word. Even I was surprised to learn this by Googling it randomly one day. So in an effort to help those who wish to combat the controllers of the puppet show, I have come to bring to you the good news of deliverance from the system of captivity. See, for one thing, the spirit can't be programmed. This is why, for me as a child who was birthed as a free spirit, I ended up rebelling against the system because I refused to be limited, controlled, and boxed in. Now, mind you, I didn't realize this until much later on in life, but I did realize early on that some things weren't adding up, and I didn't like how life was treating me. I mean, let's be real, Earth is ghetto. But for now, there is no other place to go. So if you ever experience these type of limitations and bondages, you could be suffering from spiritual depression, spiritual bondage, spiritual trauma, spiritual warfare, or if you're in tune with the spiritual existence, you may be experiencing a spiritual awakening. All right. And if so, you're definitely on the right path to healing and becoming the more improved, updated, and relaunched version of yourself. All right. So isn't that exciting? For today, today's exercise, we're going to go back to our younger selves and think about the type of player you used to be in this game we call life. All right. So that's what the curriculum is going to be focusing on. What type of player have you been in life? All right. And are you still that same type of player? Are you giving NPC vibes or are you giving main character vibes? All right. So that's what we're focusing on today. I hope that this helped to bring some clarity as to the connections or the disconnect between the mind and the brain, because I think a lot of us are confusing it with one and the same, but they're two different things. They're connected to two different parts of us. And as we go on, I will clearly differentiate between how the brain works and how the mind works. So look forward to tomorrow because we'll be diving into strictly the brain, the functions of the brain, and how the brain helps you and how the brain harms you. All right. That's what I got for y'all today. Hope that this brought some clarity and some value to someone out there who's really trying to get a deeper and more in-depth understanding of themselves as a spiritual being having a human experience. All right, because it could be tough. It could be tough and it gets lonely, and sometimes there's nobody to really explain to you what you're going through. So hopefully this is helping you out. Do the work, do the work, do the work. Peel those onion layers back. Let's get to the core of the original version of you, the best version, all right? A version that has not been burdened down with life's stresses and, struggles. All right, we want to get through that, get over that, get out of that, and get back to self. As always, I speak nothing but infinite blessings and abundance on your life, your wealth, your health, your community, your existence, and your love. I hope that this provided some type of value, and I will be back to see you all tomorrow. Till we meet again, Ashe. Peace.